taglines at AEM was engineered to outperform, but with JC it wasn't just a tagline. JC lived that in everything he did with the business. When we co-developed products, he would make sure that whatever we had would truly outperform anything in the industry. And he would never let it just sit it that way. It might have been a totally developed, mature product, and maybe a year later he said, you know, we got to make it better. And he'd go back to the drawing board and he'd say, well, maybe if you try this and try that, you get a few more horsepower out of it. And often the times, even though the modifications were good, they weren't within the manufacturing tolerances, so he'd go back to the drawing board, and 3 or 4 months later, he'd go ahead and come up with something that would do even better, and that would work. And with every product that we co-engineered, it truly was engineered to outperform. Now, JC wasn't only involved in automotive, he had ideas that would help the common man, the common person. Things like emergency vehicles coming through. He'd say, you know, these emergency vehicles coming through, I said, I almost got hit. I couldn't see where it was coming from. I got to figure out something that the average guy can be able to do that. And that was one of the projects he worked on. You know, he had always had ideas. So his mind was always going 110 miles an hour. And man, do I ever miss that guy. JC, miss you.
The first time I met JC, I was working on a project for Saline. It was a Chinese SUV that we were putting an Infinity on, and I somehow killed the Infinity USB comms when my laptop landed on the positive terminal of the battery, and we needed it done by the next day. So my boss Mike at the time, when I was at Road Race Engineering, was like, I gotta get on the bat phone and call JC. I'm like, who's JC? He's like, John Concialdi, the founder of AE. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Bypass warranty, bypass everything. I just literally walked up and was like, are you JC? He goes, yes. I'm like, I need this fixed. And he was like, all right, sure. And like came back and all it does, like, sweet, like 10 minutes later, sweet, awesome. I don't know who this guy was, but pretty cool that I had this like connection to a guy that I can just go, here, I need this fixed, and it was done. But fast forward a couple of years, I got to work with him and got to really learn and get to really meet him and get to know who he was, and just a fucking awesome dude, man. Just an awesome dude, an inspiration. Definitely lived a great life, and someone I aspire to follow in some way, shape, or form. So it was a great opportunity to meet him and get to know him.
The coolest part, you know, in interacting with JC on a day-to-day basis at AEM was he was always looking to include you on new projects. And I remember several times I was just working in tech support and I was looking to get more involved in different things at the company. And at the time, JC was revamping the fuel pumps at AEM. He'd take me into his office, show me what new gizmo he was working on and what he was testing. And for a minute there, I was testing new fuel pumps and seeing how the amperage related to the flow, learning about plotting that data, and then he taught me a little bit on how to analyze that data. And I think all of that, you know, is just encompasses who he was. You know, he was always ready to take people under his wing, show them something new, and you know, that's why we all love him and miss him dearly.
If there's something, I'll never forget, and it'll always stick with me, how JC treated everyone and treated his people. Like, that's the biggest thing that will always stick with me, and you just don't see that a lot anymore. So yeah, that'll be my biggest memory, JC, for sure. Yeah, I don't really have a story, especially I'd have to plead the fifth on everything, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, JC, he always had time for me. Like, I could walk into his office and he could be on the phone. He'd kind of give me the wave, like, you know, have a seat, I'm almost done with this call. And whatever I wanted to talk about, whatever he wanted to talk about, it was always something compelling, interesting, you know, progressive. Like, we'd talk about everything, and it was just such a great place to be. Like, JC's office was that was one of the best part of working at AEM, was going into JC's office and just being able to say hi and find out what's new and, you know, share what's going on in our lives and stuff. And, you know, a lot of times it would be Formula One and like technology, and we'd talk about R&D and all this other stuff. But an amazing dude, and that's why we're all here today, is he's touched all of us in that way, to where, you know, we want to honor him back.
JC was probably one of the kind of like biggest figures in the early career for me. He was so supportive and amazing to talk to, and I've always said that like if I had the ability to clone anyone, I would choose JC, and that was like I've always said that ever since I first met him. An amazing guy, and I'll always remember my last day at the company. In the portable trailer, he broke out the scotch, and we sat there and talked for 6-7 hours to the point where my wife had to come pick me up from my last day at the office. Love the guy. I'm gonna miss him dearly, and thank you, JC, for everything.
I think JC really inspired me to do a lot with my career. When I was at AEM, I was building my 911 engine, and anytime I had any sort of, or a solution that needed to be had, he was always the first person to jump in and dive in with me head first and get on his lathe or get on his mill and prototype a part with me. So yeah, I'm really grateful for meeting him and everything he did for me for my career.
He was like a party humanized, right? Like if you thought about someone who wanted to have a good time all the time, that was JC. Very serious about, all the time and love that went into his business, even more so for his family and his friends. The guy cared so much about everybody he met. And you can see that here. It's evident right now, like how big the AEM family was and how much of an influence he had on people and in the industry. Just an incredible guy.
I mean, it's hard. You can't sum it all up. I mean, this is great because this is who JC was. This is JC. He would love it. I love the fact that when we had the piece of paper describing the event at the bottom, it said, "Hey, JC would love a good burnout, but don't do it," and everything like that. And you know damn good and well that half the Ferraris are going to do smoky burnout out of here just because you have to. It's JC. We're going to miss him, but it's great to see everybody. Seeing people from 20 years ago.
I remember when he first exhibited at PRI, and AEM was a very young company, and just such a good friend, inspirational. He helped us at ePartrade. He's the one that actually pushed us on this platform and pushed us on our technical webinars, and now we produce over 350 plus of them, and he's just such a mentor, just such a loss, that a hole that will never be filled up. I just love JC.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Ronnie. John got me my job at Redline Weber Carburetors in 1997. Been there ever since. I was his favorite yester-tech.
I knew JC from 2002 to 2004 when I worked at AEM developing cold air intakes. JC was head of the engineering department there, and I learned a ton from him. He's always been a mentor over the years and has helped guide my own company to where it is today. I came all the way down here from Oregon just for this, and it's totally worth it to see everybody and remember JC.
What can I say about my dear friend John Concialdi? Probably took 4 years off my life over the years, just with added stress because he was so completely uncontrollable. But man, did I love him. Could never get mad at him. He was JC. All I could do was shake my head and shrug and go, man, I love that guy. But he was family. He was like a brother to me. He was always completely covered in dog hair. I ran into John before we were working together. We knew each other, but I ran into John once at Small Claims Court, and he was wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt. John is to probably a greater extent than anybody else responsible for AEM and what it was and the ultimate success that we have. The company was built in his image and run based on his values. He had nothing but positive influence on the company and the employees. He was an incredible mentor to our young people. He was universally loved and respected by our entire team, and really everybody I've ever met. I never met anybody who didn't like John. But I miss him. I love him. I will always love him. He'll always have an enormous place in my heart.
I just want to say how much that JC was a dear friend. Felt like I knew him forever. He would do anything for anyone. One of the things he did is met him at Joe's restaurant. He'd say, "What are you going to have for breakfast?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to have, I get a couple of eggs and tomatoes, something light." He said, "No, that's unacceptable. You need to try this waffle that I eat." And I said, "I really don't eat waffles, JC." And he's like, "Okay, but just try it." I said, "What do you do with it?" He goes, "They're going to put bacon in it and cheese." And I thought, oh, that is so gross. And he goes, promise me, just try it. Got it, I tried it, and he was so right. Anyway, we got together not too long ago, and the owner of Joe's put the waffle up on the board he has specials, and it was a JC waffle. So a lot of people ordered it, and it was pretty special. So I don't think he knew a stranger. I don't think there's a stranger that wouldn't love JC.
JC helped me get my first job out of college, and that took me to eventually moving on to General Motors and helping to launch their first hybrid and electric vehicle programs. I was able to bring JC in when I was working at Canoe and show him the test labs that I built for powertrain testing. I could tell that he was really proud of what I'd done since I had come from the start I got from him. He was like always someone who was just excited to see like new things going on and see where the automotive industry was going and where like the performance market could some people kind of try and sit on a fence one way or the other, like always internal combustion engine, or who would want EVs, but he was just excited about everything and interested in everything, and it was great to share that excitement with him.
Well, first things first, I guess John is probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. I met JC back, this must have been late 80s. I had just gotten some work done on my car, and a friend of mine recommended me going over there to see him. This was back in the day when he worked out of the Weber factory or something like that. John told me I was pretty special because I had a non-turbo exhaust on the turbo car. God, he was, for the longest time, he was almost like my second dad. He was like, he gave me marriage advice, he gave me life advice, like everything. There was nothing almost that I didn't consult John on,
My name is Blake Deathridge. My dad was the general manager at AEM in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think, and he made me leave school at the end of the school day and go to AEM up in Hawthorne, so Lake Forest to Hawthorne, worked the night shift until I was good enough to run production. But during the summer I worked in the warehouse, and I remember JC coming into the warehouse, and he comes up to a belt sander with a Porsche caliper, big old Porsche caliper, starts sanding the Porsche off, a brand new caliper. I'm like, what's he doing? And then I keep watching, he spray paints over it, and then he sticks an AEM sticker on there, and I think that was one of the first big brake kits for AEM. Always thinking outside the box.
My name is Ryan Willis, and I met JC when I think I was a senior in high school. I was a young guy, 18 years old when I met him, and I started work for him in those days, and he and I, like everyone else in his life, had an instant connection. He took me under his wing when I was 18 years old, and worked for me and taught me so much, not only from a technical standpoint, but just about being a human and interacting with people and caring for people. And he really impacted my life when I was 19 years old. I was kind of floating through life, and I had a direct conversation with JC where some words that he gave me when I was 20 years old have been a guiding force in my life to get me where I am right now at 46 years old. I've thought about those words almost every day as I've progressed through my life and my career and raising my family. He got me on track to get in school, get my degree, and start kind of looking for the future and building what it meant to be a human and a man and a father and an employee. Yeah, really enjoy seeing spending time with all the other people that he affected, just like he did with me. Thanks. Miss you, buddy.
John, I know you're looking down. Miss you, buddy. 30 plus years of knowing you. Met you in 1991 at Redline Weber in that little caged off room you had in there where you tuned the carburetors on my CRX. And we started talking about rental cars and destroying them. And next thing you know, we were lifelong friends. So I miss you, buddy. and never going to forget you and everything you did for me. I love you.
Besides the fact, JC, that I can't text you anymore in the weird hours of the night when I see some technical article that I feel like you would only appreciate. But one of the funny things, I do remember meeting you for the first time was with Steve Dunn. We all went down to Tony's on the pier in Redondo and got together, swapped rental car stories for an entire evening to the point where I think everybody was in tears laughing. Best story that I will never forget, thank you for the shirt, by the way, was going down to Cars and Coffee at Irvine Center Drive. You were in the Maranello, I was in my 911, and we were going past John Wayne Airport. I remember a Diablo pulled up next to us, so we were 3 wide on the 405 at about 6 in the morning on a Saturday, and we all just looked at each other and then took off. And I remember looking over at you as I was tapping out in 6th gear, and you looked at me and went from 5th to 6th and then just pulled away. I remember as we kind of jockeyed around and we finally get off the off-ramp, all 3 of us, the Diablo, you and me, and we pull over and we get in there, and you were upset because I had gone past you in the carpool lane, and you said, look, can you imagine the ticket that I would have gotten if I was in the carpool lane? I'm like, dude, we were doing 180. And your picture will always be on my phone of you doing the donut right in front of Cars and Coffee, with you standing there holding your donut and your coffee. And then the following week, we all got handed a fluorescent piece of paper that said no burnouts. So you ruined it for everybody. I love it. Take care, JC. Hope to see you soon.
So I'll just say one thing about JC. If you were lucky enough to have him get interested in something you were working on, then you were very fortunate. If he brought you into something he was working on, then you were really, really fortunate. Rest in peace, JC.
Jenny's father was a working man. He worked hard to be his best. In the middle of the afternoon, he would give little Jenny a kiss. Somewhere under heaven, in the eye of a hurricane, little Jenny would dance in the rain. Afternoon thunderstorms, the sun shadows moving slow. She could smell the earth and sky